sympathetic for the small guy. I don't think I'ma regret it when the cars fly. Ain't nothing really hitting like it used to. Gas wake the neighbors up like a rooster. It's a booster, help me see the future. I believe in karma and karma sutra, so let's do some.
I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Hello everybody. I hope that everybody's having a good, I have to look at the calendar, Wednesday. I thought it was Wednesday. Okay, so hello everybody in the chat. I want to go ahead and run the intro so we can get into this. So this was put together by a friend of the channel. That's how they wish to be described, and I'm going to honor their anonymity. But we are essentially going to just read through the presentation that they put together about this series. I'm not going to sit here and spend a bunch of time talking about Mr. Franco himself. If you've been paying attention to the news, you know, he's decided to make a reappearance as of a couple days ago. Back into the Hollywood scene despite the sexual abuse allegations against him. This guy is also just a major scumbag. That's not really a secret. And, you know, I think back as far back as 2015 was when, you know, he had stated that he was well aware of his own satanic strength. So I don't really know what that means, but we're dealing with a weirdo. So let's get into it, y'all.
What is the process?
Oh, must we drag all that up again?
Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work.
Is it old to the death? Better hold your breath. In the cell, I prevail. Freddy said from hell, ring the bell. When you're finished, I'm a grown man and win it. Sacrifice it to the demons. Know I love it when you screaming. Commit to your thought. Do it now while you lost in the darkness. You will never wake up so conscious, anxious. Why are you so scared of feeling pain, bitch? Devil in your soul, cut it now and then you'll go. Walk on the dark path, kill and you feel that. Never in your life you gotta rush from the kickback. Matt Black, Glock 10, knife on the neck, man. Hear the whispering, devil taking over them. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. All red on me, got the blood up in your hair. Sign your soul to the devil, now you asking is it fair? Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. Listen to my words of Freddy telling you the devil's work. All red on me, got the blood up in your hair. Sign your soul to the devil, now you asking is it fair?
Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the devil's work. Listen to my voice already, telling you the
Don't forget, we are literally out here fighting demons, y'all. So let me get this pulled up because we are going to get into it. I know that I am behind on updating the... what did I do? Okay, whoops, sorry. The video descriptions, but that is because it's good news for me. I was busy handling some legal matters. I am officially divorced, yay me. So that is what I have been doing. So now I can kind of focus on this, but that was occupying a bit of my time. Longest divorce ever, right? Not really, but whatever. Anyways, it's stupid. So, this entire presentation, this individual put all of this together. I have not edited anything, and this series is available on YouTube. Okay, so I don't really want to promote this series per se. I don't think that it deserves the views, but I will find the playlist because I think it's all a playlist, whatever, and I will put it in the video description when I'm updating everything. Okay, so we already know from looking at Maury's files, looking at Ed's files, we see, I'm not pulling it back up, James Franco contacted Maury. I have my opinions about who else was involved with that. Because if you've read The Ultimate Evil, the original Ultimate Evil, well, the one that was updated last by Maury Terry, DeMeo, it would make a fantastic HBO series or Showtime series or whatever. That's not what happened, right? If you've seen The Deuce, then you know what the bulk of, his work went towards. They just pulled out the cult stuff. But I think that the observation made by the individual who put this together, the final observation, I was like, man, this is a big, excuse my French, this is a big fuck you to all of the viewers. But I do think that their conclusions are accurate. So let's get into it. So let me see if I can make this bigger for you guys. Can you guys read that? Hopefully. I hope so. Let me see. I want it to be good enough for you to be able to see. So, inspired by The Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry, executive producers James Franco and Vince Jolivet. And here is the cast. So, Maury Terry, David Berkowitz, Gene Clark, the teacher, John Clark, Manson 2, Lou, Donna Lauria, Jody Valenti, Arliss Perry, Julie O'Brien, Jake Morgan, projectionist, prison guard, police officer, 911 police operator, cult victim, the dog. And right here, I hope you guys can read this. All right, so 2015, Rabbit Maker Presents Online LLC. Obviously, you guys know that I'm going to come back on and we're going to talk about that. So, right here, summary, episode 1. The teacher, Maury Terry. Let me see. There we go. David Berkowitz is made to look threatening. A tall, stocky, angry, stereotypical bad guy with a temper. David Berkowitz is 5'8", which is shown in the opening credits. The actor that they chose is 6'3". I think that that's interesting. So that is the actor, Blake Robbins, and I don't know this conversion, but right there, it says it right there, height 6'3", okay? So, here we go. This interview, set in New York, 1993, ends abruptly with David Berkowitz yelling at Maury Terry because he brought up the teacher. Don't say that name, David screams. Episode 2. David Berkowitz is stabbed in prison. We are led to believe it was a prison guard who was given a pocket knife by a sketchy man, later revealed as Manson 2, who's also been following Maury Terry around. Flashback to the Bronx, New York, summer 1976. David alone shoots Donna Lauria and Jody Valentine. Okay. Flashback to New York, spring 1976. David Berkowitz is a cab driver who picks up John Clark. John is chatting away, snorting drugs, and invites David to a gathering of like-minded people. You look lonely as shit. My sister's throwing it. Episode 3. Maury Terry, after knocking and not getting a response, quote, breaks in, quote, to Gene Clark's house. Wheaton's house, right? Because this is alluding to the original characters. Jean is portrayed as a stoner lady who didn't seem to care that Maury let himself into her house, but gets annoyed at his questions about David and her brother. She says David was such an introvert, he's incapable of having friends. Real fucking introverted. He'd go for hours on end without saying a word sometimes. There were some indications he could be volatile, man. He'd just go off to a rage sometimes. I never really knew why. The dog told him to do it. Flashback to Gene Clark's house at an undisclosed time in the 70s. Jean and her brother John are getting stoned and hanging out with Berkey. I hate the nickname Berkey. It's so infantilizing and stupid. However, I think it's interesting that that's what they call him. David yells at the dog to shut up, but the dog is silent. John tells David, Berkey, lay off the hard stuff, man. Back to 1993, and Maury shows Jean some photo negatives of John holding a dead woman. Jean laughs. That's not a real woman. She explains how it was totally harmless. Dumb kids, high and bored, messing around and making a little movie at Untemeyer Park. Did some weird shit back in the day. Jean hears the doorbell. Why didn't she hear Maury? She goes to answer the door after nervously saying, "So many guests today, I'm feeling young again." So remember, Maury allegedly tried to break in, right? Maury uses this time to go to the basement where he finds a film labeled with that logo. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, so there we go. And moving on, episode 4. Maury takes the film he stole from Jean's house and bribes a movie theater guy to play it for him. Oh, there we go. It looks like a group of people, including the teacher, Manson 2, John Clark, and David Berkowitz in black robes holding candles. John then carries an injured woman who they tie to some wood. A knife is ceremoniously passed to the teacher. Just after the cult human sacrifice, the film suddenly stops working. Maury goes to the film room to find the projectionist has been murdered. Maury tries to call the police, but the phone gets disconnected. Maury then realizes he has a gun to his head. His captor is Manson 2, who had been following Maury and provided the prison guard with the knife to stab David. The teacher wants to see you. Cut to David in prison next to his cross praying. He looks at his Bible and has a flashback. Bronx, New York, summer 1976. David is smoking dope with Manson 2 and John. They convince him to expand his mind and take a pill. Time lapse. David is still in the chair whilst John and Manson 2 do more drugs. Trippy music and colors appear. The three of them are in a car. Manson 2 is driving, John in the front, Berkey tripping out in the back. And that just looks like a real hellscape. Look, I've had some not great times in my youth. So, the car stops. Manson 2 turns to David. Teacher wants the brunette Berkey. You get him and you kill him over and over until it sounds like barking. David has a gun now. And there they are again. We are back at the scene of Donna Loria and Jody Valentine from episode 2. This time, John is with him after the shots are fired. John ushers a shocked David away. Let's go, let's go. Cut to David in prison, who takes off his glasses, rubs his eyes looking remorseful. Episode 5. Maury is led on foot to this damp corridor with graffiti and trash. Jean is already there as a hostage. Her captor is a British-sounding man who has Jean's telepathic dog from the 70s with him. He is the teacher, who claims he is merely a humble servant. I'm just going to point out the fact that a British-sounding man called the teacher. You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah? De Grimston? Okay. He then gives a cheesy speech, all these years searching for the truth, and here it is. Maury says, go to hell, which gets him punched by Manson 2. The teacher takes the gun from Manson 2 and crouches down to Maury on the floor. He talks about murder and the gods. Huh. Isn't that interesting? The gods. Maybe the great gods? And then hands the gun to Maury as a gesture to join them. Dog barks. Maury Terry says, fuck you. The teacher, threatening Jean with a knife, Sam's a thirsty lad, and he won't let us stop killing until he gets his fill. Maury tells them to let her go. The teacher nods to Manson 2, let her go. Manson 2 shoots Jean in the head. Maury tries to run, but is drugged. Maury is on the floor near Jean, and Manson 2 places the gun in Maury's hand. The teacher and Manson 2 flee. Maury comes to. He tries to leave, gun in hand, but is met by the cops. Drop your weapon. Turn around. Put your hands on your head. The end. So, Maury Terry was right, and him uncovering the cult gets Jean, aka Wheat, killed and Maury framed for her murder. What's the message here? Stop trying to find out or you're next? That's it. And it was released weeks after Maury died. Yes, Soil Launch, that is correct. It was released weeks after Maury died. And someone on Twitter had pointed out to me, and it was a very interesting observation, and I didn't pull it up because I kind of feel weird, like, putting people from Twitter on blast, especially if they don't want it. Let me see if I can find the screenshot. They said that the shooting victim, that those were the ones that I believe they said David confessed to. Give me a second. Bear with me. I know I'm ignoring the chat. Don't judge me. I don't even think there's a lot of people here. Let me see. Not that matters. But that's it, guys. That's the entire review because it's a very short series. Like I said, I will put the description or the link in the video description. However, I'm not really trying to get it a whole bunch of movement. The series is complete garbage, but I think that observation is very astute. What other conclusion do you draw? I mean, if people want to go watch it, knock yourself out. But I think that it is a big fuck you from Franco. And I can't find the screenshot. So I believe that the person said that it was the two crimes that David had confessed to. Two of the crimes that David had admitted being involved with. So that's it. I'm trying to think if I have anything else to show you guys because I read through that much faster than what I anticipated. So give me just a second and then maybe I'll look at the chat. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this into my Wayback, and then that way you guys can have it, for yourselves. Because, let me show you guys this. Hold on. We'll go ahead and, since we're talking about weird Son of Sam stuff, and I got through that way faster. Remember that documentary that I showed you guys a preview of with Rothstein? You guys want to look at that? Give me at least if one person says yes, I'll pull it up. I don't think we're going to read through the whole thing because it's 30 pages long. But that only took me how long to read through that? 18 and a half minutes to get through 18 pages. I think it's a great review. I don't really care what you guys think. And I'm also proud of the person that put it together. I think it's brilliant. Plus, someone was willing to sit down long enough to do that for everybody. So, thank you from me. All right, let's get into the documentary. So, I don't have the video clip. I can't do anything about that. But, all right, let's see. Here we go. Let's see if you guys can see that okay. All right, it looks pretty good. So I think the first couple of these are the same as what we looked at the other night. Son of Sam Reloaded, 2017, right? This is a little bit clearer. But, and again, not going to sit here and read this entire thing. This is, I don't have the link to the documentary, guys. I'm sorry. I was shown a preview of it. It was a link on Facebook, and I can't find that link. This was sent to me almost a year ago, and I completely forgot about it until me and Parker were working on all of this. But, again, here was the series goals. We discussed this: disproving the lone gunman theory, establish the wider conspiracy, work towards identifying at least 50% of the cult, called the 22 Disciples of Hell, identify the cult hierarchy, and investigate allegations of the involvement of the Process Church. And here, disproving the lone gunman theory. Now, I want to, somebody remind me, I need to pull up a photo of the Voskerichian sketch because I absolutely think that and DeMeo should be considered. I don't think that it's crazy at all. Origins of the shootings and something much more sinister. Discussing here how David Berkowitz met Michael Carr at a party in 1975. They became good friends. I'm not going to sit here and read everything. But here's a little Note from Rothstein, police records confirmed the ritual sacrifice of dogs in Untemeyer Park. As new NYPD Detective James Rothstein states, we got information that children were being used, and in particular, there was something strange going on in Van Cortlandt Park and Untemeyer Park. And it came down that somebody was murdering German Shepherds. And here was this building that had all these satanic ritualistic drawings and stuff of that. So I had a pretty good idea I was looking at some type of occult activity. Rothstein found this bizarre place 5 years before the first Son of Sam shootings. Okay, so. And then here, the initiation. It's David Berkowitz discussing the cult. This is the Devil's Cave. And I know some people are going to sit here and say this is all fake and gay, right? This is all woo-woo. I don't really care. Occult history of Untemeyer Park, discussing how it was founded by Samuel Untemeyer, a famous New York City attorney. The park was generally the gardens for his palatial Greystone mansion. The garden was covered in occult symbolism, and Untemeyer was a devout Zionist who believed the end times were at hand. Stones were brought in from Europe with Druid origins, and multiple altars were constructed. Most notably, there was a 1,000-foot staircase leading down to a stone altar with a compass engraved into it. This very altar is the place that the Son of Sam murders would have their origins, as the cult would take their sacrificial offerings to another level beyond just dogs. They were now hunting human beings and calling themselves the 22 Disciples of Hell. So, that's that. And then these little screen grabs right here. I don't know when this is from, as far as the specific markings. Rain and Blood. Not sure. Doesn't have a date. And here, mapping Berkowitz and Yonkers. Here is a nice little map. And identifying the 22 Disciples of Hell. Mr. Real Estate. I know somebody's going to say that this is a comic book character and we were sold or we were bamboozled for a typewriter and a box of crayons. Yeah, that's fine. I don't really care. I would like to remind people, I'm going to stop this for 1 second. I would like to remind people, since people seem to have really bad short-term memory. When I found, there's proof of this both on my YouTube and on Twitter. When I found where Ken McNaughton was at now, let's not forget. The gardener then got in contact with Kenneth McNaughton less than 24 hours later to ask if they were involved in the Son of Sam crimes. Okay? Let's not forget that. Because why would you hold that in your back pocket? Yeah? And he seemed like a nice guy. Okay, why did you only bring that up? Ken from the process, Father Dominic from the process. Why did you wait to bring that up until I identified him? Did somebody give you orders? That would be my guess. So, right here, the bloody aftermath, Michael Carr's fatal accident, Sisman murder scene. I have pretty strong feelings about the photos that were taken at Michael Carr's accident site, and eventually I want to bring on what has been put together specifically by Dare to Defy. He had pointed out some very interesting things that don't really track with the story when you actually look at the vehicle, and I had never noticed it before. And it's just stuff for people to consider, that's all, but we'll come back to that another time. So, episodic breakdown, episode 1. Here, a recap. The Son of Sam murder spree haunts New York City during the summer of 1977. How did we get here? Strategy for this new investigation. This is a map from I know this is from the newspapers because I've seen this little map before. And episodic breakdown, episode 2. So this established Maury Terry's work on the Son of Sam case, set up Carl Denaro connection to the case, set up John and Michael's younger sister, Wheat Carr. Obviously, I think that with the conclusion of the Franco series, I think that their observations here, Wheat is the one person that is still alive that holds all the answers. Carl and investigators strategize how best to approach Wheat Carr for information. Well, we know that Wheat's been real pleasant with me, not. Episodic breakdown, episode 3. So here, Carl confronts Wheat, I apologize. He confronts her with questions about her knowledge of the case. How much information will she admit to? Where does her information lead? This is Michael Carr. Investigation into the Yellow VW and the confidential list of suspects. Investigate the larger conspiracy. And the larger conspiracy, obviously, yeah, it is relevant. Talking about parties at Hollywood producer Roy Radin's Hamptons mansion. What connection, if any, did Radin have to the cult and possibly the murders? Controversial artist and occultist Robert Mapplethorpe was rumored to have been involved in the Process Church, and Berkowitz has stated that Mapplethorpe produced a snuff film of one of the murders. Search for stronger evidence to additional elite ties, including attorney Roy Cohn and NYC mayor's son, Buddy Beam. Tease the elite connections to the Process Church and their new identity as Best Friends Animal Society in Utah. Episodic Breakdown, Episode 4. Investigation into Best Friends. The cops that work the Son of Sam case do not buy the cult's new facade. They believe there is still nefarious activity going on within the group. With boots on the ground in Kanab, Utah locals are interviewed about the goings-on at the animal sanctuary. Sharon St. Joan, a potential whistleblower, is interviewed. A team member goes undercover and applies for a job at Best Friends to infiltrate the group and investigate any suspicious activity. Back in New York, the search for the 22 disciples from hell continues. Working off a list of confidential names, prime suspects are put into 3 groups: dead, alive, or in prison. The investigators pinpoint current addresses of any suspects that are still alive, strategize whom to approach first and how. Cadaver dog detectives search Untemeyer Park and behind the Carr's house for more bodies. Intercutting investigations between Utah and New York. Present any evidence the Utah team has obtained of criminal and or cult activity. Back in New York, more suspects have been located. They are questioned for their knowledge about the Son of Sam murders. They are obviously old. Will they clear their conscience and cough up information or take what they know to the grave? Episodic Breakdown, number 5. The Son of Sam geographic tentacles. The North Dakota connection, obviously very interesting, especially when God, why can't I ever remember that guy's name? They had the meth tunnels. Remember? They had the meth tunnels in North Dakota. I cannot think of his name. However, why was John Carr constantly coming back and forth? Investigation into the Houston connection. How was Ace Brown, a cult associate, connected to Houston's infamous serial killer, the Candyman? See? Investigation into the Venice, California connection to the Process Church. How involved were the California chapters in the New York murders? Was there actual connections from the Son of Sam to Charles Manson, as reported by Maury Terry? I think that we've pretty much established that, but investigate connections to the Atlanta child killings. There is evidence a satanic cult was operating in Atlanta during the time of the Atlanta child killings. Was this connected to the Son of Sam cult? Uncovering the cult hierarchy. The team locates Billy the artist. As a teen, Billy was present at the cult meetings at Untemeyer Park and sketched images of the cult members. He is interviewed for the first time in 20 years, reveals never before seen sketches he drew 40 years ago. Working with the confidential list of names, links are made to the upper echelons of the cult activity. Names are put to the faces, but one name is still to come. Mr. Real Estate, the very elusive Mr. Real Estate, who, depending on who you ask, is a conspiracy theory. I stand by my statement that I think that it's Mrs. Real Estate, and I don't see why anybody thinks that's so crazy when we're considering the hierarchy of Marianne de Grimston, right? All right, so episodic breakdown number 6. The smoking guns. The team believes that they have pinpointed Berkowitz's boss in the cult, and he is still alive. I'm not going to comment on that because I think that that's really obvious. Berkowitz's boss would be one of the lieutenants of the cult reporting directly to Mr. Real Estate. The team presents all background and information on the boss and strategize how to best approach, asking about his involvement and knowledge about the killings, exposing the trigger men and women. This is for those that are familiar with the lore, because we have discussed it briefly. And I will never disparage Carl. Carl has been very kind, very respectful, very polite, and very matter-of-fact and to the point with me. Carl De Niro believes that his shooter was a female. Okay? And if you're into this, then you know who they're referring to, right? Mr. Real Estate's true identity. Well, you know, everybody has a general thesis of who Mr. Real Estate is. Again, I think that it's Mrs. Real Estate. I think that it's Helen Donovan. However, the Smoking Guns, a timeline of key events, and here it breaks it down. The various shootings, right? When the Daily News comes out. Here we go. Location. Potential match. Potential match. Here we go. And I apologize. I don't like these crime scene photos. I'm not going to really stay on this. These crime scene photos make me extremely uncomfortable. But down here, Smoking Guns, timelines of the event, right? Gonna keep going. And down here, I like that they, added some photos of different individuals that maybe I hadn't seen. And, maybe that makes me stupid. I don't really know. But, talking about Tommy Zano, Terry Gardner, friends of John Carr, Phil Falcon, Gerard Buckhout from the Greenberg PD. Okay, good and well. Here we go. Santucci, it's kind of an ass, actually very much an ass. And then here, because he did say this, I believe David Berkowitz did not act alone. In fact, it has crossed my mind that the .44 caliber used was passed around a number of people. Yeah, he did say that. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's also not an illusion. And then Maury Terry asked Berkowitz who pulled the trigger at each shooting. Well, depending on who you ask, they're going to tell you that, that this was all paid for with crayons and a typewriter. And, if you want to believe that, if that's the fairy tale that you want to live in or, play in that sandbox, go for it. But he, identifies himself here. Number 1, Berkowitz. Number 2, a woman. Number 3, John Carr. Number 4, a professional from California. And number 5, a woman. Number 6, Berkowitz. Number 7, Michael Carr. Number 8, gunman was in the yellow VW. Obviously, if you guys can't read between the lines, yeah, I think that you guys get it. So again, moving on, 1993, 1997. Here is Jerry Moskowitz and Nisa Moskowitz. All right, we're moving on. And down here, Smoking Guns, 1997. Talking about all of these individuals and Richard Johnson, retired NYPD detective. Some of the same people I arrested for selling children for sex were later identified to be affiliates or associates of the process. Okay. All right. Well, I guess these people are all just making this up, right? Yeah? And Berkowitz here stating about the process, there were other homicides, heavy drug trafficking. They were into child pornography, right? Okay. It's all just fake and gay, yeah? Never before seen confidential files of Maury Terry and Jim Rothstein. Where are those files? Yeah? And obviously they put some little tidbits here, but producer notes, additional information, first grouping of names, allegedly part of the inner circle, talking about Ben Rose, Dr. Daniel Gaggi. If you guys have read his files, you already know. We've seen Maury's files, right? Well, what we were allowed to see, right? Down here, talking about Ace Brown's connection to Dean Corll. Dean Corll, well known as the Candyman. Lots of true crime stuff out there about him, right? A. Beam was the mayor of New York City from 74 to 78, and his son, Buddy Beam, allegedly had involvement in the cult. Christopher Boomis was a New York City high-rise contractor. Attorney Roy Cohn, who was a mentor to President Trump, and producer Roy Radin were all identified to be connected to the cult in one way or another. All my fans of the Don out there, don't go nuts, okay? I'm not sitting here getting into Trump. And then here, not going to get into that. And here is just a little map about the cult. In this hole lives the wicked king, son of Sam. So, no one has seen this documentary, unfortunately. No one has. I don't know why. I have a guess why, but no one has seen it as far as I know. The fact that like Parker and Nate had never even heard of it and that I had forgotten about it, I'm not going to lie, just like I said the other night, the preview that I saw really freaked me out, especially the locals that they were interviewing in Kanab. And you can tell like they're in a moving vehicle driving around the compound of Best Friends, and it's at night. there's some weird stuff going on. There's some really weird stuff going on. And like some of the cops, you could tell like they were uncomfortable, but they did have at least one or two officers that they were working with that believed them, that had gotten phone calls about really, really shady stuff going on out there. Because you can visibly see a temple. You can literally see a temple when they're driving around the perimeter of the compound. You can see it at night and it's lit up and it's out there in the desert. So I don't really know what to tell everybody. Oh, look, Tom Dexter. Well, I mean, it's not like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't know who you are, Tom Dexter, but I know you're good at trolling. So Franco has Berkowitz confessing to Maury that he personally killed Loria Voskerichian and Moskowitz. This is not true. Berkowitz told Maury he personally shot Loria and Esau Suriani. Thank you for correcting me. I knew a Son of Sam person would come in here and give me the once-over. So why the change into specifically Voskerichian and Moskowitz? Perhaps because those two shootings are the ones with more circumstantial evidence of accomplices involved on site. Well, I guess that I'm going to have to come back and look at that, because obviously whatever that person said on Twitter, I literally went in reverse with it. That's interesting, because let me see, un momento, let me see, Voskerichian shooting sketch. Let me see it. Somebody have it. Because I know what it looks like, and that is not it, but I'm getting close. Because I want to show you guys one other thing before I forget that I wasn't planning on showing, but whatever. It's not like I can ever do anything properly, right? I know I'm going to get laggy for a second because this is going to give me ads. Oh, you're going to make me pay for it, you little hoe. Hold on. Let me see. Bear with me, guys. It's been a busy week, okay? I've been dealing with the court. Bear with me. Voskerichian shooting. You know what? Let's just use Son of Sam sketch. Son of Sam sketches. Okay, let me see. Give it to me, baby. Where are you? Nope. I'm still not convinced that that other one is not Sister Flavia, but I digress. Let me see. Why don't we have any clear ones of that? It's really annoying. Guess I should have been better prepared. Whatever, people are still going to give me crap anyway. Let's see. Not you. And let's see. I just want a close-up. That's all I want. Let me see. Let me save this stupid picture. Save images. No, not a web file. That's not what I want. Wow, I'm like a total noob today. No, it's not ski cap. I think the Flavia is ski cap. That's just my opinion. I can't unsee it. Now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. So let me grab this. That way I can show you. And if I get laggy, it's because of the ads. Don't judge me. Is that the right one? I think that it is. I'm going to be so embarrassed if it's not. It's not ski cap. I don't know what these things are called. I don't know who identifies what by what. And then people are going to be like, you don't know the case. Okay. Well, I'm not sitting here doing handwriting, comparisons. I'm showing you guys two photos because I do think that they look alike. Let me get a picture of Roy DeMeo. And then I'm going to show you guys because I found another Processian that was recruited in New York in 1968. I identified them. Another connection to the UN, right? So this whole thing about like the UN stuff being this stupid conspiracy theory, I don't know. I think it's stupid that people want to be so dismissive of it. Un momento. Let me get this pulled up because I am not prepared. As if I'm ever prepared. But let me just make a new one here. Drop that in. I really hope I have the right sketch up or I'm going to be really embarrassed. Let's see. Yeah, I think that is the right one. Let me fix this. Look at me, just working on the fly. If you've been here for any amount of time, you should know that you shouldn't have expectations. I really hope that this is the right one. Hold on. Let me look at the chat and make sure I'm not getting raged at. Okay. No, not ski cap. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me try one more thing. Let me see if I can find it. People are going to be so mad at me, whatever people leave not nice comments on every single video. People are like, you're so popular. And I'm like, you clearly don't read my comments. Let's see. Come on. I'm trying to think. Un momento. Promise. I'm not, actually, you know what? I'm not going to promise anything. How about that? I know better. Let me see. I did have the right one. Thank you. Okay, but I just found a better picture. Hold on. I knew I was right. Okay. Well, I didn't know I was right, but I suspected that I was right. Okay, so let's get this put into here. There we go. That way it's not so janky. Okay. And send that one to the back. And we're going to pull this right there. And away we go. Okay, so obviously you literally just kind of like watched me throw this together. So it's not pretty. However, this is something that got some of the meatballs' panties in a real big twist the other night, which was amusing to me. Also makes me think that I'm onto something. So this is the Voskorician sketch of the shooter next to Mr. Roy DeMeo. There we go. So, right there. Whoop. There we go. Tell me that they don't look alike. And especially because DeMeo's hair is slicked over. That looks more like DeMeo than it does David Berkowitz. And that's a hill that I will die on. Yeah? You can't tell me that that doesn't look more like DeMeo than Berkowitz. I'm sorry. Most of these sketches don't look like David Berkowitz, but that one absolutely looks like Roy DeMeo. Straight up. And guess what? Mr. DeMeo became a made man shortly after Voskorician was killed. And then Roy DeMeo was taken out as things started to fall apart. I believe he was murdered in 1983. It's very interesting. I'm kind of working on the timeline now, but there's this thing called the Westchester Play Theater. Good old Westchester. That was involved in all kinds of money laundering and SEC investigations and all kinds of stuff. And guess what? DeMeo was involved in that garbage too, on top of the UN charity fraud involving guns, weapons, and human trafficking via child pornography. Yeah. Tell me that that ain't a hit, baby. Especially because when you look through the Voskorician police report, one of the people that they interview is redacted. Yeah? So, I think that it's fascinating, especially because, as I'm reading through all of the, court information that I can find, apparently, allegedly, they took DeMeo out because they were worried that he was going to turn into a snitch, right? Because all of these meatballs are snitches. They have no loyalty. They have no moral or ethical code. They're trash. If he had already turned state's witness, why would they release that? They would not want to expose that there was any mafia activity connected to the son of Sam, right? That would be real crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is a bingo. Yeah, it's a hit. It's a hit. I'm sold on it. I'm sorry. I don't care How many times, like, people are going to sit there and argue with me? The person that brought that to me, as soon as I saw it, and then they said, look, like, you can track this. DeMeo was a made man after Voskorician was shot. Yeah? I mean, DeMeo very, very well could have become a serial killer. I mean, I don't think necessarily. I mean, I think that all of the mobsters are serial killers because they're running around just taking out their enemies. Speaking of which, I don't have the article like super cleaned up, but let's look at a woman who was murdered by the Mafia in 1977. Because these jackwagons like to tell me that hits are never taken out on women. This is tied up with the Westchester Premier Theater stuff. I'm getting closer, baby. I'm getting closer. Here's the fun thing, and I would like people to keep this in mind, whether you're looking at the Black Vault for the FBI or you're looking at FOIAs. When something is so heavily redacted, where it might as well just be blank, right? You're just like, thanks for nothing. Thank you so much for nothing. How much whiteout did you guys go through? Or Sharpie, depending on how old the file is and what you're looking at. You are able to fill in some of the blanks with newspapers. Who would have thought, right? Especially with this kind of stuff back then, because this was a really big deal. This was a very big deal in the press. I've been able to find like the court schedules in the newspapers versus, online where somebody just has all of this stuff, every single update, in order, completely archived for people to look at, because God forbid we speak ill of the culture of the Mafia who had morals. They didn't have morals. They're a bunch of scumbag meatballs. But let's go ahead and let's take a peek at this one really quick. I also, I'll wait until next time. But it's fascinating because Frank Sinatra is a witness in one of these trials. And I'm just like, oh, baby, we getting real juicy up in here. It's getting hot. The block is getting hot. You know what I mean? So here we go. This is the one that I found, honestly, like 2 or 3 hours ago. So Saturday, March 31st, 1984, Staten Island advanced. Link Castellano to 25 murders. Paul Castellano, a Dongan Hills resident, reputed to be one of the most powerful mobsters in the country, faces up to 270 years in prison on charges. He supervised a gang responsible for 25 murders, drug trafficking, prostitution, auto theft, mail fraud, and extortion, right? But over here, so let's get down to the good stuff. So not good stuff, but the stuff that I'm focused on, which is identifying some of these victims and trying to flesh this stuff out, right? So right here, according to charges in the indictment, Richard Denome, 29, who was shot last summer in Grassmere and then murdered last month in Brooklyn, was part of the crew run by Castellano. The second murder, with an island connection, involved John Quinn, a Long Island man found shot dead in Ocean Breeze in 1977. According to the indictment, Quinn and his girlfriend, Sherry Golden, 19, were murdered by members of the Castellano crew. In addition, 6 members of the gang itself were murdered. The indictment charges the 3 of them were murdered by other gang members. Castellano was charged with participating in the murder of his son-in-law, Frank Amato, on September 20th, 1980. He was also charged with racketeering conspiracy, loan sharking conspiracy, taking stolen property across foreign and state lines, and carrying a firearm while committing a felony. Other members of his alleged gang were charged with a variety of offenses, including prostitution, bribing witnesses and jurors, and trafficking in 25 pounds of cocaine, 23 tons of marijuana, and 499,000, I don't know if I'm saying that right, I feel like I'm having a stroke, Quaalude tablets, the Ludes. The gang's second in command was identified as Anthony Nino Gaggi, 58, of Brooklyn. Gaggi faces up to 300 years in prison on a variety of offenses. It says that Castellano and Gaggi were accused of murdering reputed mob figures James Eppolito Sr. and James Eppolito Jr. in Brooklyn on October 1st, 1979. Gaggi had been acquitted in the murders, allegedly, by bribing a member of the jury. Oh. Castellano and Gaggi were also charged with making an extortionate loan of $200,000 to the Westchester Premier Theater in Tarrytown, New York, between 1976 and 1978. This theater has become one of my new focuses. The pair allegedly threatened the managers of the theater with violence if they didn't pay off the loan on time. The Westchester's operation led to several indictments and convictions. Under Gaggi, according to the indictment, was Roy DeMeo, who allegedly ran the day-to-day operation until he was murdered in January of 1983. So, there's a lot of Westchester meatball Son of Sam activity, and I just don't see why people are so hell-bent on separating these things. I really don't. But I think that once you look at DeMeo and the Voskerichian shooting, you can't unsee it. This is just my opinion. I can't unsee it. And I'm certainly, it's not that I'm not going to let it go, but you don't have proof. You don't have proof that it wasn't. And I know that Sami has his own podcast, and I'm trying to think who else. I thought that there was another mob documentary coming out. Oh, Tarrytown is Sleepy Hollow. That's cute. Frank did a concert in Atlanta that was highly policed and had many bomb-sniffing dogs due to a threatening letter from the ghost killer. Didn't Sammy Davis Jr. attend that as well? Right? Because, Frank Sinatra was a rapist. Sammy Davis Jr., friend of the late Lieutenant Colonel Obsessimus Michael Aquino, and obviously a member of the Church of Satan, right? I know that one of the mobsters is supposed to be coming out with like a docu-series or something like that. Whatever. These guys sit here and get monetized on YouTube and talk about their heyday, and well, you only leave the Mafia with a toe tag or in prison, like one or the other, was something like that. I think it was Michael Franchese, the meatball, the wandering bishop, in my opinion, who went to interview David Berkowitz not that long ago with the other meatball, right? The other wandering bishop. It's like, yeah, you're just telling me that the Mafia, that you're still in the Mafia. That's all you're telling me. I don't endorse the propaganda that the Mafia went away. I'm sorry. There's simply no proof to substantiate that. It's not bore out by the facts and the evidence. Yes, and the ghost killer hated Sami. Oh, I don't know that I've heard of the ghost killer, Hollis Keith. I think that is very interesting. I know that the Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra, they did the benefit, for the murdered and missing children of Atlanta. They were trying to raise funds, and obviously, I'm not saying that their presence there necessarily means anything. It's just, I'm also not saying that it doesn't mean anything, right? Because there's also some other interesting stuff. I'll come back and talk about it because we've got to do another obscenity. We've got so many Mafia, pornography, all this crap to talk about. But I didn't know that DeMeo's crew specifically was, sending these stolen luxury vehicles over to Iran up until Iran-Contra, when the Ayatollahs took over, right? And so then trade was completely cut off to Iran. In here, in these interviews from these court records, they said DeMeo was super pissed. And so they basically transitioned their deliveries to Kuwait. I just think that that's interesting because this is another sort of tie-in kind of to Iran-Contra because, how in bed were they with that? I'm not blaming everything on Reagan and the Contras. Sorry. It's just not how that works. I feel like the mob gets heavily overlooked, and certain people's reactions to the way that I express my feelings about the mob, especially, all of this pedophile, child pornography garbage that they insist the Mafia was not involved with. despite evidence to the contrary, especially coming out of fucking Yonkers, excuse my French. But let me find this thing about this other process member really quick. It's not pretty. Let me find it, though, because it is another UN tie. And then we will get going. God, this slide is a freaking mess. Hold, please. So this is going to be from DeMeo's files. DeMeo, my boy DeMeo. And eventually, yeah, I'm going to come on here. We're going to talk about all of this because this gets real weird. Because this family of this processing, who is tied to the UN, this family helped build and establish wealth in Omaha, Nebraska, home of the Franklin scandal, right? Isn't that lovely? So, I don't really know what to tell people. Just out here with my head on a swivel, right? So, people want to sit here and call me conspiracy theorist or what the fuck ever. Guess what? I'm a free woman, baby. Now it's game on. I've been minding myself until this court stuff was done, and people might be like, "Well, that's crazy," and we can't tell, and we think that you are a complete hood rat. Don't really care, because now I'm free to be, and now I can do what a damn well please. All right, this one article I'm not even going to worry about cleaning up, but I do want to show you guys because I just thought it was super weird. I didn't know that someone from the line of the Aksar Ben Kings was involved in literally building Omaha, Nebraska, right? Like this is like the old wealth, the old money, the elitist of Omaha, and I'm just like, man, come on. I don't want to do this. Like, why do we got to do this? All right, I'm almost there. Oh, please. Where's this other article? It's not going to be beautiful, but rarely is. It rarely is. I set high hopes for myself, and I usually end up failing. So, and maybe, since someone asked about Ed's files the other night, pay attention. Pay attention. Yeah. Because there's a good argument that this person very well could have been a member of the children. Yeah, especially considering their wealth. Because again, the children were well established before the process got there. So, literally just threw this together in 5 seconds. You're going to judge me anyway, so I'm not even going to say it. Let's go. Here we go. So, right here. So, this is from Ed's files. Okay. June 8th, 1968, New York chapter, Stuart de Vautier Waddles. 522 East 89th, New York City. So, this is the first one that I find. Mrs. Waddles denies embrace before kids. Apparently, this was very scandalous. I don't really know what happened, but it says that she was a former fashion editor, and she was married to Gurdon W. Watler, a Harvard man, and head of the United Nations Legal Department. You want to know how I found them? Was right here. The address. 522 East 89th Street. 522 East 89th Street. Right? So, that's how I found it. And apparently here it lists him as a socialite lawyer. That's fine. That's all good and well. She looks very unhappy, obviously. The de Vautier comes from her side of the family. And down here, because this is Dad's obituary of the process member, this is 1995, Friday, July 7th, from the, don't you do that, you little hoe, from the Omaha World Herald. Gurdon W. Waddles, Jr., 75, son of Aksar Ben King. His father, Gurdon Wallace Waddles, was the 11th Aksar Ben King in 1905. He was president of the Trans-Mississippi Exposition and the Omaha Street Railway System. So, that's another tie to the UN from the cult, right? Right. Yeah. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you guys before I sit here and kind of look at the chat is, and I don't care, I think only Echo Cat was excited with me or had like the appropriate reaction to this. And so recognize real Echo Cat, because if you are familiar with the INS files where they're talking about Sirhan, they're talking about the DeGrimstons, the Polanskis, all of this tomfoolery. And this is an investigation being conducted by Maury and Ed together with this individual. This is something that I've been looking for over a year. Congressman Bingham's daughter, Claudia Bingham, being with a process member who is allegedly a dentist from Chicago, not Victor Wilde, and not the other dentist that I've found, because we have so many dentists in the process, it's stressing me out. But I finally found it. I don't have photos, and I have not been able to identify the husband because he literally has the most basic name ever. But at least I found it. And guess what? They're at a process location. So to all the naysayers and the haters, get fucked. Excuse my French, but get fucked. Hall, Bingham, Robert H. 28407 Cole, and Claudia R. Bingham 2407 Cole. The San Francisco Examiner, Saturday, November 18th, 1967. Yeah? This was the marriage licenses that had been issued. Okay? So there it is. Yet again, Maury and Ed proved right. Yeah? All the people that want to shit on them and have nothing good to say, okay. They're right yet again. I'm corroborating things yet again. But it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and digress. Although I really could. I think that I'll save the other process folks that I've identified from Ed's list for another time, since that's not really what I was trying to do, and it took me like an hour to find the meatballs, right? DeMeo, find that sketch. I apologize, but didn't think I was going to get through everything so quickly. So I guess I'll look at the chat for a couple minutes, and then I am going to dip out, and I'll probably do like one of those little vertical things, you know? That way I'm not going back into old habits that people seem to be very unhappy with. Yeah, so I'm not scrolling back. Let's see. Rise to Liberty. I have a link in my description if you would like to order a sticker. Thank you for asking. Isn't a big profession in Scientology, dentistry, and chiropractic? I don't know, Jack Parsons. Dentists freak me out. Straight up. Dentists freak me out very bad. I don't like it. There's a lot of weird stuff with possibly Jolly West pretending to be a dentist while he's evaluating Timothy McVeigh. And allegedly, depending on who you ask, McVeigh has a chip in his head or his asshole. Excuse my French. I don't really know. Chuck got your answer, Tawny C. And let me see. Eye doctors are big in this whole thing as well. Yes, Occult Examiner. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff with the whole eye donation industry even now. So I think that there's definitely something there, but I think that the teeth, because I don't know if people saw that really weird stuff about Ye's dentist. I have very strong feelings about dentists. I mean, it goes all the way back to, like, you know, the hypnotist, Dean Year Jolly, Martin Orn, who is it? Joseph Bryan. Like, I can't deal with it. Or William Joseph Bryan. I can't remember these people's names off the top of my head. I'm not ready, okay? And I don't like to talk about dentists. And thank you so much, Tara Jackson. And, okay, I've never posted a link in the chat before. The link looked clean to me. So, Dentistry is key due to access to analgesics. Yes, Epstein did have a dentist chair. He also had what you guys saw in like some of those little pictures of Untemeyer Park. He also had a big sundial. Yeah? Big weird sundial. What do you think that they were doing out there? Yeah? You think that maybe they were doing some cult shit? Yeah? Maybe? Dentists? Anesthesia? Everybody knows about the diddler and the oil, right? That's fine. Whatever. Dentists got rich selling that cocaine in the 70s. Well, yes, that Colombian bang bang. Hitting the slizzopes. And let me see. The strange chair was in Epstein's Palm Beach house bathroom. Well, that's nice. Isn't that lovely? I didn't realize you were fluent in French. It sounds so natural. Well, I feel bad, but this is why I'm going to like do the vertical thing, because people get upset. And somebody left a comment like, for the love of God, I was following along with your story, and then you started answering questions in the chat. How dare you? How dare you? And I'm like, when are y'all not gonna figure out they ain't gonna do what you want? Yeah? Maybe someday. Maybe eventually. Maybe you'll figure it out. But, you know, the vertical thing is a little weird, a little fun. And I do enjoy watching, like, people immediately leave as soon as they figure out what I'm talking about, because they're like, oh, that hoe's crazy. That hoe crazy. But I don't know what you guys keep saying right about. Are you guys talking about right from the other night? Right? Is that what you guys are talking about? Pretty sure I saw the process symbol in the new 28 Years Later trailer, along with a load of subversion of Christian iconography. I just watched that trailer this morning as soon as I woke up. And it blew my mind. I was like, wow, I'm old. This is embarrassing. I am an old woman. Incredible. Because I remember when the first movie came out. So, I will maybe have to check that out. And yeah, the Toy Box Killer also had a dentist chair. That's correct. Yeah, the Toy Box Killer, that stuff's real weird. My friend Chris Graves has a very strong theory that he's been working on for quite some time. That part of that was a, black male snuff outfit, which it would track. And Dr. Laverne, not sure if I know who Dr. Laverne is. Certainly not coming to the front of my mind, which doesn't mean that I don't know who they are. But obviously, I'm kind of like having a mini stroke, right? So I'm not going to sit here and get distracted. I'll go on the vertical thingy. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Were you talking about the Batman? Yeah. There was a really fascinating screenshot that I saw where a certain meatball that's very sensitive, and I'll end here, has this sort of suspension in time, and he thinks that the Batman logo up in the sky, like, that's his imagery in his head, that he's out here, doing the right thing. He's getting justice. Okay. Why do you get so pissy? Why did you freak out? That's why I put that live chat on the screen, Neo, Paul Agostino. Why did you get so pissy when I started talking about Roy DeMeo and child pornography? That's what they called it at the time. I understand that that's not the appropriate word now. However, sat there and called me trash, a witch, garbage. But you got real angry about the Mafia stuff. And I just think that that's really fascinating. And I know that that means that I'm on the right track, despite what you would like to claim to the contrary. So, I will talk to you guys soon. Be safe.